On Friday, August 7th, at approximately 3:39 p.m., officers from the Salina Police Department, medic units from the Salina Fire Department were sent to an address in the 1100 block of North 10th in reference to a shooting that just occurred. Upon arrival, they found a female in her 30s and a Jerry Alkire, 32 years of age, lying in the street with gunshot wounds. The victim had multiple gunshot wounds in the mid-torso and outer extremities. Alkire was shot in the abdomen and inner thigh. Another male subject, Dan Fisk, 38, was found deceased in the driveway with a gunshot wound to the head. The officer secured the scene, and the medic units transported the injured to the Salina Regional Health Center. Our investigation revealed that shortly before the shooting, the female victim and a male acquaintance had arrived at the female's residence. The victim operates a daycare center from her residence and was caring for 3 children along with her own 3 children. The victim found that her back door had been forced open. She entered the residence and called the police. The acquaintance went outside to smoke a cigarette and started hearing shots inside the residence. He then saw several children running out the back door along with the victim. Fisk was in pursuit of the victim and continued shooting at her. The victim ran to the front yard and eventually collapsed in the street. Alkire heard the shots and came to the aid of the victim and was shot in the thigh. He went back to his residence across the street, put a belt around his wound in an effort to restrict the bleeding. He then returned to the street and was shot a second time in the abdomen. Fisk then shot himself in the head and died at the scene. Alkire and the female were admitted to the hospital and underwent surgery for their wounds. The children, ages from 11 months to 10 years old, were found safe and uninjured. Fisk was an estranged husband to the victim. He forcibly entered the victim's residence through the back door and was in the residence when the victim arrived home. The victim found him upstairs where he started shooting at her. She ran downstairs through the back door with Fisk in pursuit. She eventually collapsed from her injuries in the street. We are continuing our investigation into this tragic event, and no arrests are anticipated.
Just to be clear, so she was not home. He was there when she got there.
That's correct. They went out for some reason, and upon return home, they found that the back door had been forced open, and so they went inside and called the police. And as we were getting this information, she went upstairs and found him upstairs.
Did she indicate what this might have stemmed from? Was this a domestic argument, or was this something, an ongoing dispute or something?
Right. This is a domestic violence incident, and it was obvious that his intent was to murder her. And fortunately for her, she sustained some life-threatening serious injuries by being shot multiple times, but she's able to was able to survive.
Do you know the condition currently of the victims?
The Alkire, he has been released from the hospital. She is at the hospital and she's alert and verbal.
Is she expected to recover?
She's expected to recover, yes.
Do you know how many times she was shot?
Right now it's just multiple times. We are still not able to talk to her because of her injuries, so we're trying to still determine the number of times she was shot. There's multiple gunshot wounds, and we're still trying to determine whether they're entry wounds, exit wounds, so we're not sure how many at this point.
Talk about Jerry Alkire's involvement. Did he possibly save her life by intervening, or?
That's still too soon in the investigation. We still have to talk to the victim. We did talk to him. He was just across the street at the time. He heard the shots, and then he went to the aid of the victim. But unfortunately for him, it was still in the midst of the shooting, and so he became the target of the suspect also.
Now, did he know them or just a neighbor?
He was a neighbor. As far as the relationship, him knowing the victim, I couldn't tell you at this point.
Were the children threatened at all? Even though they weren't hurt, were they threatened?
No, once the shooting started occurring, the children started running out the back, and I can't tell you whether or not they were actually threatened. I don't believe so.
Had policemen called out to that residence before, and was Fisk known to the police as a violent person, or was there a history?
I can't release that information. It's way still too early in the investigation, and so I can't release that.
What do you tell folks of domestic violence? I mean, obviously, was there a restraining order put on this person at the time, do you know of? And I guess it's a two-part question. Was there a restraining order put on Mr. Fisk not to see this woman? And two, what do you tell victims of domestic violence? To call the police and when something like where they feel their lives are threatened, or what do you tell them?
Yes, every domestic situation. Unfortunately, there's so many that go on that we are just as concerned with the victims. We do anything we can to help them. We do have a domestic violence association of Central Kansas that is here that we work closely with, and every domestic situation is a hazard to the victim, as well as officers have been injured during these events. We know there can quickly turn into a serious violent event at any moment, and the only thing we can is just develop a safety plan, have them work closely with DVAC, and if they see anything suspicious, immediately call us, because we take it very seriously.
Now, who was the person that actually called and informed you guys? Was it Alkire when he went back to his house, or?
No, once the victim discovered that her back door had been forced open, she called us. So we were on our way. As far as who exactly called after that, I don't know. There were neighbors that did witness this going on, and so I'm not sure exactly who called at that point.
Did you mention the caliber of gun?
Not revealing that.
Was it a handgun?
Yes, it was a high-powered handgun.
So was it empty? Did he shoot all rounds?
No, there was. I don't know how many rounds were still left in the automatic handgun.
So some of the shooting did occur out in the street? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's where the Alkire was shot in the street.
And this man that she came back to the house with, that's not Alkire, that's somebody else entirely?
Correct.
And he was not shot or involved?
What did he do while this was going on?
She was, or he was out back smoking a cigarette. The children started running out the back, and then he took the children to a safe place while the victim was in pursuit by the suspect.
Are you releasing his name?
No, not at this point.
Were they still married? Or do you know that?
Yes, they were still married.
Okay. But she lived there and he did not?
That's correct.